The 1980 version of Shogun might not have the same flashy production values as FX's 2024 Primetime Emmy winner, but it was a groundbreaking miniseries that deserves just as much attention. Adapted from James Clavell's best-selling novel, both the 1980 and 2024 versions of Shogun follow the story of English navigator John Blackthorne as he becomes entangled in feudal Japan's political turmoil. While the 2024 Shogun has impressed critics with its nuanced storytelling and authentic Japanese representation, it's not the first time this epic tale has made waves on television. NBC's 1980 version of Shogun was a cultural milestone that redefined what TV could be, even if modern audiences often forget it existed. Rather than dismissing the 1980 adaptation of Shogun as a relic of the past, it's time to re-evaluate its legacy. This isn't a case of nostalgia clouding judgment, the original miniseries genuinely holds up. In fact, it pioneered many of the elements that prestige dramas now take for granted. While FX's Shogun rightfully raises the bar for historical storytelling on television, NBC walked so FX could run. And when you revisit the 1980 version of Shogun, it's clear that the spirit of Clavell's work has always had the power to captivate, even before the streaming era. NBC's 1980 Shogun miniseries is just as good as the FX show. The original miniseries holds despite being over 4 decades old. NBC's 1980 version of Shogun doesn't just warrant investigation because it shares the same source material as the 2024 FC show. It's genuinely a high-caliber production, especially by the standards of its time. Starring Richard Chamberlain as John Blackthorne and Toshiro Mifune as Lord Toranaga, the cast delivered powerhouse performances that helped legitimize the miniseries format on American television. Chamberlain brings gravitas and internal conflict to the role of Blackthorne, but it's Mifune's commanding presence that anchors the entire story. Even without modern cinematic polish, these performances carry weight and emotional nuance that still resonate today. Writing-wise, the 1980 version of Shogun is a faithful, slow-burn adaptation of Clavell's dense novel. It doesn't shy away from the cultural complexities, religious tensions, and political intrigue at the heart of the source material. While it primarily centers on Blackthorne's point of view, the miniseries still attempts to convey the Japanese perspective through character interactions and philosophical dialogue, even if it lacks the depth achieved by the 2024 FX version of Shogun. As far as the production value is concerned, NBC poured unprecedented resources into the miniseries, filming entirely on location in Japan. The result is a richly immersive world full of real castles, temples, and landscapes, which helped sell the authenticity of the story in a way few shows had managed at the time. For a network drama in 1980, Shogun looked and felt more like a feature film than a TV show. Its sweeping cinematography, period-accurate costumes, and large-scale set pieces rivaled anything airing on primetime television. While the 2024 FX series certainly benefits from more advanced technology and cultural insight, the 1980 version of Shogun should absolutely be recognized for its artistry, ambition, and legacy. How 1980 Shogun changed television and is still worth watching. NBC's groundbreaking adaptation proved TV could be cinematic long before prestige drama became the norm. Mariko in 1980 Shogun and 2024 Shogun. Long before Game of Thrones or The Crown turned high-budget serialized storytelling into a norm, NBC's 1980 version of Shogun proved that television could deliver cinematic spectacle and layered storytelling on a mass scale. The miniseries aired over 5 consecutive nights, drawing in an average of 26 million viewers per episode, via the Southeast Missourian, a staggering number by any era's standards which, at the time, represented 1 in every 3 TV sets in the US, via The Hollywood Reporter. It wasn't just a ratings juggernaut, it was a cultural event. From water cooler conversations to Emmy nominations, Shogun dominated the pop culture landscape in a way few shows had before. Winning 3 Golden Globes and a trio of primetime Emmys, alongside multiple further nominations, the 1980 version of Shogun set a precedent for future epic television events. It showed networks that audiences were willing to commit to longer, more complex narratives if the storytelling, acting, and production were all dialed up to filmic standards. In this way, Shogun paved the way for the prestige TV boom decades later. Without Shogun, the path to sprawling historical epics like Rome, Marco Polo, and FX's 2024 Shogun might have been much longer. Beyond its technical achievements, the original Shogun dared to be different in its approach to non-Western culture. At a time when American TV was still largely dominated by English-speaking casts and Western-centric narratives, Shogun immersed its audience in Japanese customs, politics, and philosophy. Though the 1980 version does occasionally filter this through a colonial gaze, it nonetheless demonstrated an ambition to respectfully depict another culture on its own terms, a rarity in American primetime television at the time. Most importantly, the 1980 version of Shogun holds up surprisingly well for a modern audience. Its pacing may be slower, but the intrigue, tension, and performances remain gripping. Watching it today is like uncovering the blueprint for the modern TV epic. If you're already a fan of the 2024 version, it's worth revisiting the original to see how it laid the groundwork for everything that came after. FX's Shogun made all the right changes to the classic miniseries. The 2024 adaptation modernizes the story with deeper character perspectives, cultural authenticity, and narrative balance. While the 1980 version of Shogun is undeniably a television landmark, FX's 2024 adaptation elevates the story in many incredibly beneficial ways. The most significant change is perspective. Instead of focusing almost exclusively on John Blackthorne, the new Shogun repositions the narrative to emphasize Lord Toranaga and the Japanese characters around him. This shift not only balances the storytelling, but also brings much-needed depth and nuance to the cultural and political conflicts at the heart of the story. The 2024 version of Shogun also gives voice, quite literally, to its Japanese characters. Subtitles are used throughout for dialogue spoken in Japanese, which immediately creates a sense of immersion that the 1980 version of Shogun lacked. In the original, Japanese was either minimized or translated directly for the audience, often robbing the language of its rhythm and emotion. FX's version makes the bold choice to trust viewers to engage with the story through the lens of its native characters, not just through the eyes of an English agency, ARCS, and